Strengthen and increase your hunger is the one common denominator amongst the most successful people. Richard Branson's a good friend of mine, and Peter Guber, Steve Wynn, all these guys, they've never lost their hunger. Most people are hungry to achieve a certain amount, make a certain amount of money, and then they get comfortable and relax, or they get a certain level of fitness and then they relax. But, Richard is as driven today as when he was 16 years old starting. I mean, he's like on fire, and he's 65 years old. Warren Buffett is 85 years old. He's as driven today as when, he began the journey, right? And so people that have that hunger, I believe intelligence, I love people that are wickedly smart. And I work to be wickedly smart by educating and training myself and so forth and training my brain. But there's a lot of intelligent people can't fight their way out of a paper bag, right? Hunger is the ultimate driver, because if you're hungry, you can get the strategy, you can get the answer. If you can't model it, you can find it. Another guy I interviewed is a man named Kyle Bass. Kyle Bass took $30 million, gathered money together, a lot of money, but other people's money, turned into $2 billion in the middle of the subprime crisis.
That's a very big return.
You can say that in 2 years, right?
Oh my God.
So I'm like, how did you do this? It's historic. There's several books you read and they open up the chapter, and some of the most historic books written recently. The gentleman who wrote Flyboys also wrote one of the books, and he starts out talking about Kyle Bass doing this incredible piece. It's like being there with him. But the way he did it was he risked 6 cents to make $1, and he just leveraged that up. Wow. So he could be wrong how many times and still break even? 15, he could be wrong 15 times and make money. So, but he's also smart as hell. He looked at things, he evaluated things. It's more detailed than I explained in the book, but the core they all have in common is they risked for valuable returns.
And I say to you, there's more in you right now than's represented in your bank account. There's more in you right now that's being reflected by your life right now. Your life is not a true reflection of your potential. You have greatness within you.
And what's exciting about you and your business is you've now got the way. Whether you use it or not, it's up to you. Whether you cash it in or not is up to you. Whether you make a fortune or just a little, that's all up to you. Each person's ambition, it's called Kennedy. Here's what Zig says. If you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything you want. If you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything you want. Now, wanting everything you want, we call that self-interest. But it's okay to have self-interest if you do it in a positive way. By helping enough people get what they want, you can have everything you want. Now, you can accomplish all that by learning this next skill called recruiting. And I learned it, and it made me fortunes. So now I've got 3 skills: milking cows, making sales, and recruiting. Here's the next skill I learned that paid big money: organizing. Once you got a few, get them to work together, see, and that's magic. Getting people to work together is magic. Now, yes, it's challenging, like having several members of your family, getting them to work together is challenging, but it's magic. Getting husband and wife to work together is challenging, but it's magic when it happens. But everything magic is challenging. Just got to jot that down. Everything magic is challenging. But once you figure out the challenge and go for it, then the magic occurs. Let me tell you how magical people working together is. Let me quote the Bible again. It says, if 2 or 3 agree on a common purpose, nothing is impossible. Just try that on for your mental size. If 2 or 3 agree on a common purpose, nothing's impossible. Everybody's looking for a challenge. Here's what I teach, especially the kids. Here's the best challenge in the world. Let's go do it. Not you go do it. Let's go do it. If 2 or 3 of us decide on a common purpose to do it, nothing's impossible. Incredible. Working together, organizing. Now, when everybody's an independent, now it's a little more challenging. Like having kids, they've each got their own opinions. They've each got their own ambitions and desires.
When we're suffering and sacrificing, we wonder whether it's worth it. We wonder whether we're supposed to. We wonder whether sacrifice or setbacks or suffering is a sign it's not our real dream, don't we? See, at the gym, you'd never think, oh, I'm going through some pain and discomfort. This must be a sign I shouldn't be at the gym. You'd never think that. It goes with the territory. Everyone knows this. Build a bicep or a tricep or a chest or legs. You have to break it down, suffer and sacrifice for it to grow. So while it's happening, there's no part of you that says this isn't right. In fact, the indication of the pain and sacrifice and sweat, don't you feel better at the gym? You're like, wow, I really sacrificed today. I really suffered. So in that area, we all know to the extent we suffer and sacrifice is to the extent we grow. And your body is a metaphor for the rest of your life. But the rest of our life, every time we sweat, every time we sacrifice, every time we suffer, we don't do what we do at the gym. We start saying, well, wait a minute, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. Maybe I'm not cut out. Maybe it's not my destiny. Maybe I just can't do it. It's the most unbelievable, ridiculous conclusion we draw, but it's what everybody does, which is another form of distraction, is doubt. The coins flip on each other all the time, don't they? Another form of distraction is just doubt, and doubt comes from the suffer. It comes from a loss. It comes from fear. It comes from the sacrifice. And so just remember this, you're supposed to suffer and sacrifice. So let me ask you a question. What are you willing to risk in order to make your dream come true? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. You're going to take a risk. Maybe it's financial. Maybe it's a risk of time. Maybe it's a risk at your job. Maybe it's a risk of looking bad. Maybe it's a risk of failing, of falling on your face, of going broke, of going through pain, of going through anxiety. Maybe it's even a risk in a relationship that's just going to be difficult while you do this. What are you willing to risk in order to win? And you have to accept that, because remember what I'm going to tell you. The price you will pay for not making your dream come true is far greater than the one that you will pay to make it come true.
This owner, he's being so good to me. He's leaving me so much wheat. Ruth thought it was Boaz being good to her. The truth is, it was God being good to her. Boaz was the resource, but God was the source. God was the one speaking to Boaz, giving him that desire to be good to her. How many times has God spoken to people to be good to us and we didn't even know it? For no reason, they decided to help us. They opened a door. They gave us a position. They introduced us to a friend. They were a resource that the source was using. And the longer I live, the more I recognize God's goodness in my life. Things that I thought were a coincidence, I thought were people just wanting to be good to me, I realize now it was the source. Doors that opened that you couldn't open. Somebody decided to give you a good break. You were at the right place at the right time, met that person and fell in love. That wasn't a coincidence, that was the source. That person that put in a good word for you, you got the promotion. You weren't lucky, that was God speaking to them like He spoke to Boaz. Every good thing comes from our Father above. They may not have even known it was God speaking to them. They just suddenly had a desire to be good to you, to stay late and introduce you to the client, to waive the policy and put the loan through. Are you recognizing the source? Are you thanking God for every good gift? Do you realize you wouldn't have waken up this morning without the source? You wouldn't have air to breathe without the source. Your eyes wouldn't see without the source. You wouldn't have that person to love without the source. Don't get so caught up in the resources that you forget it's the Most High God working in your life. It's God protecting you from that accident. It was God healing you from the cancer. Not just the medicine, it was the source. When you look back over your life, nothing was a coincidence. There were no lucky breaks. What you thought was just Boaz being good to you, leaving you handfuls on purpose, that was the hand of God, the source working behind the scenes, telling them to be good to you. When we were trying to acquire this facility, the former Compaq Center, it was owned by the city. So we had to get the city council members to vote to approve it. I had never been involved in any kind of politics and convincing council members. This was way out of my expertise. Someone randomly introduced us to a man that had been in city politics his whole life. He had worked for different mayors for many years. He wasn't the typical white-collar professional that you might envision. He was kind of rough. He liked to party, he liked to drink, didn't always use good language, but for some reason he really liked us. He really wanted us to get the building. He went overboard to make things happen. He used his favor, his influence to sway people. Early on, there was a council member that was against us. He said, "Joel, don't worry. He'll vote for us. He owes me." I didn't ask for any details. Been in church his whole life, but he was doing all he could to help Lakewood get the building. I realize now that wasn't just him deciding to help us. him just deciding to do a good deed. He was a resource that the source was using. He may not have even known that was God speaking to him. After we got the building, he came to a service. Years later, he was being interviewed about the process and about why he had helped us. He said, I don't go to church. I went to Lakewood one time and I don't like the circus. He referred to us as the circus. And yes, our services are fun and exciting. And in a few minutes, the elephants will be coming out. And